I've spent a lot of time on the show talking to you about the rioters, what they're up to, whether it's BLM looting or Antifa, attacking statues, whatever it may be. Those are the shock troops. Who are the generals of the movement? Who are the people that are really giving ideological cover to this and suggesting that somehow this benefits us as cities get less safe and as things get worse in many places across the country? Who? Well, you may have heard of a professor at Brown University named Glenn Loury. And he is in the unique position these days of being a tenured professor at an Ivy League university who is a black man who says things that you are currently, as somebody who is in all of those different categories, currently not allowed to say. If you had, for example, I've brought this up before. If you were talking to the public and saying that you are doing a lot for public health, you may recall that there was an episode of The Office. No, actually, I'll stay away from that one. If you were talking a lot about public health, and you said that you were raising millions and millions of dollars, billions of dollars, for research into the hantavirus. As I've told you before, hantavirus can be lethal, and it's a very bad thing if you get it. It's also very, very rare. About, CDC says, close to maybe anywhere from half a dozen to a dozen cases a year. And if you were having marches in the streets for public health, claiming that you wanted to deal with the hantavirus, and then the moment somebody brought up, cancer or heart disease or something that kills a whole lot of people, yeah, you're allowed to be concerned about the hantavirus, but why aren't you concerned about this other thing that is so much bigger of an issue? You're allowed to have multiple concerns. See, this is the game that the libs play. This is the pretense that they all go through of, start your own movement. If you care about black people getting shot in Chicago and New York so much, conservatives, start your own movement. And it's like, well, hold on a second. The movement is called Black Lives Matter, but as we know, it's very specific black lives under very specific and politically useful circumstances. Why do we have to assume why do we have to treat that like it's a moral proposition? They're focusing the public, national attention, taking tremendous amounts of license to shut down streets, police resources, overtime funding for it, the looting that happens, the rioting that happens, the destruction of public property, all of these things in the name of black lives. But it's really a very, very small, very, very, very small subset of black lives. And we're supposed to just accept that, not supposed to challenge it. If you do, they'll tell you that, you either don't understand them or they'll just say you're racist. That's usually we've returned to this now. As a society, we go through periods where being called a racist is effectively license for the person making the accusation to say whatever he or she wants. Remember, you'll have a lot of white liberals love to throw around the term racist too. I mean, just go over to HuffPost, Vox.com, MSNBC. All these smarmy beta male white liberals in these places love to throw around the term racism. And they think it's an argument ender, and they think that, they're part of the new digital civil rights movement or whatever. They're clowns. They're morons. Glenn Loury, though, going back to this professor at Brown University, had a conversation on a show where, I just want to play it for you. He nails this issue about where is the focus? Why do we have to accept that this is the focus of BLM and that that's defensible and moral compared to what the focus could and should be? And who's really benefiting from this? Cui bono? Who benefits from this situation? Let's hear from Professor Loury. Play clip 1.
The guilty white liberal who needs a narrative about race that allows them to assuage whatever psychological processes they have, give rise to a market for the mutterings of the likes of Ta-Nehisi Coates. And my concern is about the actual well-being of black people, not about the froth on the top of the waves of American elite culture and how they're reconciling their own psychodramas about racial guilt, but about the actual lives of people who are getting gunned down by thugs.
Mm-hmm.
A half mile from where they live, trying to pump gas into their car at 1 o'clock in the morning. Somebody decides they want their BMW or they, et cetera, and they put a pistol up beside them and blow their brains out. And the fact that we have a public discourse where the extirpation of Black life in the thousands per year by exactly that means can't even be mentioned. Mm-hmm. And the handful of Black kids who are gunned down by bad police officers becomes the defining feature of our racial discourse. Ta-Nehisi Coates is a product of this diseased racial, political American culture. I'm less concerned about rebutting him than I am about calling out the depths of intellectual vacuousness and moral superficiality that's reflected in this fact.
The intellectual vacuousness and moral superficiality that is the basis of the focus of the BLM movement. Professor Loury just nailed it. If I could right now, I'd give him a standing O. Inject this into my veins. Pick your phrase, my friends. This is exactly the point. This movement is largely driven by white liberal guilt. Those are the people that you see going on TV at night at these major networks who are being paid millions of dollars, who don't live in neighborhoods where crime is a major concern. Even if they did, they would make sure that they had the private security and the other mechanisms necessary to defend themselves and their families. They don't go to the public schools where there are more problems, when there's greater crime in the neighborhood. Their kids go to the private schools. These white liberals are frauds. They are frauds. And they're cowards. And they're hurting the very communities that they pretend to help. And here you have Glenn Loury, a Black professor, a brilliant fellow, who is saying, what the heck is going on here? We're going to talk about making Black lives matter. We're going to actually use the phrase, not the movement, the phrase, what's the most important thing you can do? Protect as many Black lives as possible, make them as fulfilled, as safe, as happy and secure as possible. And that is a conversation that all Americans are willing to have. That is a conversation that deserves focus, and it deserves honesty. Hey, Team Buck, thank you so much for watching The First on YouTube. If you like this video, please click that little thumbs up button so then it will log as liked. And also, if you want to see more great content from The First, please click subscribe.